extract the most out of them to learn programming. So far about books, I can give you guys some recommendations at the end of it, and I'll probably post my resources also, so you'll get them. But let's talk about programming bootcamps and web development bootcamps. So to give a brief introduction or a brief overview, a web development bootcamp is a bootcamp in general is a condensed period of time with very immersive and intense training. And I think it was at the beginning of this year, like maybe around February, that I decided, all right, I'm going to do this. I feel like 3 months are not such a big of a time commitment, and so I decided to research some schools. And I think in the States at the moment are a little bit over 40 schools, and here in Europe we don't have as many. So Berlin, I think, has Stack Academy and General Assembly maybe, and another one, Startup Institute, I guess. But they're all sort of different, and I guess it really depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking something more startup-y, or you're looking for a bootcamp for Python or Ruby or JavaScript. So as with many things, you just sort of have to kind of like do your Googling and Amazoning and whatnot and get an overview. So after looking at about 40 bootcamps, I finally decided to narrow my applications down to 5 bootcamps and ended up being taken at the Flatiron School. So I think it would be interesting to kind of like see what the admissions process was like. And initially what you do is you have an online application. So you file out where you want to go and what your motivations are, how far you have experience, what is your background. And I think I took quite a lot of time in doing that just to make sure that I really give it my best shot and am not turned away thinking that I could have done better or I could have done more. So once you pass that stage, you have a 20-minute Skype interview, and this is usually with one of the founders of the school. So they're just kind of testing out if you're a sociopath or if you're a normal person, I guess. And if you pass that stage, it's followed by a 1-week coding challenge. And once you pass that, you're being admitted. So I was lucky enough to get in. And 5 weeks later, I was on my flight to New York. And I remember the first thing that they told us was, we're going to dump so much work on you that you can't possibly finish it all. And it was true. They did. It was a lot of work. I'll get into the details. And it kind of just reminded me, for the guys, for those of you who read Animal Farm, Boxer, he had like this motto, I will work harder. And I feel like that was like the motto of many of the students this summer at the school, because it's the only way to go. And I can give you some insights into how much actually we did in these 3 months. So like I said, it was 12 weeks in total. And I'm being like kind of like nerdish about that. I kept a spreadsheet, and I put in like the times of when I came to school and when I left school, and how much break time we had, and how much time I spent studying at home. And then I wrote a little script and a little program to get some stats. So out of my 90 days in New York, I spent 87 days on campus. In total, it was 950 hours on campus, and that averaged out to be 11 hours per day. And that, of course, is Monday till Sunday. And you were free to come on Saturday or Sunday, but it was encouraged because, well, like I said, they just dumped so much work on us that we just had, we always had something to do. And there were TAs on the weekends, so they would help us out, they'd answer questions, and we could just sort of catch up with what we didn't do during the week and sort of, learn more of the stuff that we did learn. And it was frustrating at times, like this guy here. Yay, GIFs in presentations, awesome. But also, it was very satisfactory sometimes, like this guy. I don't know if you can see it. To get more into the actual curriculum, the bootcamp focused on Ruby on Rails, and the first 5 weeks were spent learning kind of like reverse engineering Rails and learning Ruby, and kind of like building our way up to Rails. Because as we found out later on, Rails is kind of like this different kind of monolith framework that has so many methods and so many gems and all that stuff that works with it, that it becomes really difficult to kind of like know your way around if you don't know the basics. And then finally, the last 4 weeks, we started learning Rails. We got into JavaScript, and this was also accompanied by a gentle introduction into preparing our, I guess, online presence. We're blogging, and we had mock interviews. So we had cultural and technical mock interviews. And yeah, and overall, this is a, I don't know, late night picture on campus. Overall, these preparations led to the last 3 weeks, which were 2 weeks of project mode, and we were free to kind of program what we wanted to, and we were being teamed up in teams of 3 or 4 people, and then we could just choose what we wanted to do. And that all accumulated into one day, which was the science fair. And the science fair was a day where we get to represent our projects. So each one of us got a little workstation and a little screen. And then it was pretty much 3 hours of nonstop talking to, I think, 250 plus companies from New York. And just sort of like getting to know the people at the companies, and they getting to know the students, and potentially forming connections and following up on them in trying to get interviews and trying to get a job. And the last week of the program was actually completely focused on getting a job and computer science stuff. Because so far, all what we've been focusing on was the actual practical stuff that you need on the job, which is just building websites and building web applications. And we sort of neglected the computer science stuff, but we caught up on that in the last week. And the last week was focused on, like I said, job preparation. They had a ton of people there that were talking. We had Q&A sessions. We had one Q&A session with the founder of Stack Exchange, Stack Overflow, and they do get quite a few. I was very jealous because the current class got DHH, the creator of the Ruby on Rails framework, to talk to them through Skype, and John Ressig, the implementer of jQuery, which runs on pretty much almost every website. So I was pretty jealous of that. But anyways, we got some cool people too. And yeah, so we got job preparations. And after that, they gave us a lot of information on the way. And I had this moment where I was thinking, okay, if I do everything they tell me to do, there's just no way I'm not going to get a job. There's just no way. Because the mindset that we had was kind of like become a no-brainer hire. So you're putting yourselves into the shoes of your employers and recruiters, and you kind of think to yourself, what can I do to kind of make myself as attractive as possible to them, and to kind of make their decision easier for them to just to say, of course we're going to invite them for an interview. Of course we'll have a second one. And to give you a few post-bootcamp stats, 98% of students who check, sort of like we have a survey afterwards who's looking for a job, because they have a job team in place that helps you find one. are employed within 120 days of graduating. And the average salary is $72,464. These are the numbers I got from the school. And it's, to me, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to go, because, like I said, I figured I'd make my investment back in, the next year of working. And I think the whole business model is very interesting because it's a win-win business model. Because at the end of the day, the school benefits from getting as many people jobs as possible, and the students benefit from obviously having a job and making money. And this is kind of like an upward spiral. And the school also sort of acts like a recruiter, because apparently it's very hard to hire great people and to hire good employees. And it costs a lot of money. They have to do interviews, they have to post job ads. And so they partnered up with a bunch of companies from New York. And if you're being placed at one of those companies, the companies pay the school a fee and you get a deduction in your tuition. And yeah, I think it's a terrific business model because both sides are interested in the same outcome. So that was a great thing. And to kind of, you can read it, but all right, just barely. This is from Fall Creek's website, and I think it's very true that this is one thing that we have to keep in the back of our minds is great companies are being built by great people. And oftentimes the perks that people get at software companies or startups, maybe not as much, but sort of mid-sized companies are free gym membership, free lunch, company retreats, fun events, all that stuff. And I'm sure you guys heard stories about Google and what they have, like what kind of crazy employee benefits they have. And that is because they realize that they need good people in place to do that. And interestingly enough, I had a look at the Wirtschaftswoche, which is a German magazine, and they asked, I think, over 500 HR managers what the most important things are that they're looking for. And as you can see, almost 80% said personality, and the second highest one with almost 70% is experience. And only at the 40% mark comes your GPA or your average. And personally, I think websites like LinkedIn, GitHub, Twitter, and even blogging are sort of transforming the way how we approach hiring and finding good people. And I'm not sure that they'll actually end up getting us into the future, but it's very tough for me to imagine that in 10 years' time, recruiters are going to look through Word documents or CVs in like PDF CVs. And like I said, I'm not sure if LinkedIn is going to do that, if LinkedIn is going to fill that in, or if we still have to wait for the sort of like the next level of abstraction. But I do think that this is going to change, and I think we're at the beginning of it. And to kind of wrap this up, I wanted to show you Maslow's famous hierarchy of needs, or the updated hierarchy of needs. And as you can see, creative fulfillment and the pursuit of inner talent is kind of like on top of the pyramid. And I think programming and coding is a great way of doing that because it's creative, you're being challenged, there's many new things to learn, so it's interesting and it stays interesting. So I would very much encourage you to sort of go out and have a look at whatever tools I just showed you and start learning how to program. And maybe it's the right thing for you. And you can always, obviously, we can have a little chat afterwards and you can ask me. Otherwise, I'm on Twitter and GitHub, and you can find me. And I also have a blog which I occasionally blog on. It's a technical blog, but sometimes I write about other stuff too. I have a blog post in the works about why I think English is the most important thing I learned so far. And yeah, I thank you all very much for coming, and yeah, thanks a lot.